I search for the reason why the days just pass me by.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Weplay Invitational between Dignitas UK and TheRed. I am Paul, and I'm joined by Spuddington for the second game of this series.
Indeed, and I've got to say that first game vastly exceeded my expectations because first things first, I didn't really know TheRed, and they are quickly building up a reputation with me. But they really played very solidly across the board, coming up against one of the most experienced challenger teams, Dignitas UK, and winning the game. So they are going into this with a 1-0 advantage. Really solid gameplay from them, and I'm interested to see if they look to go for some kind of different style this time, or whether they only have one string to their bow. I know Dignitas UK have quite a few different playstyles they do like to run.
Yeah, absolutely, and already Dignitas ban out the Shen and the Jarvan, two of the key players in that last game, and one of the biggest factors as to why it was so difficult for them to aggress onto the team of TheRed. Meanwhile, Elise will be banned out alongside Shyvana. Shyvana seems to be one of the strongest champions at the moment, incredibly versatile.
Yeah, I mean, she just does so much damage. Shyvana is literally just a ball of damage and tankiness. She is a bruiser, kind of epitomized, just a ball of free stats. That's all she does, but she gets so many free stats, and her numbers are, as a result, so high that she is a very relevant pick. But good to see that Sivir ban still being in place. And I will say, it's almost like if Sivir is available, you cannot pick Vayne. Because Vayne versus Sivir is so horrible as a matchup, you have no idea, but the first pick Kassadin, ooh.
Ooh, first pick Kassadin. It's a little risky. There are some bad lane matchup for Kassadin, but at the same time, if you want to prioritize it and you're confident with it, then go for it. And Alchemist is an incredibly good Kassadin.
Indeed, he is. We should probably actually mention, by the way, guys, me and Pulse just a little bit delayed for the duration of Champion Select because we are watching from the stream. Only 2 spec slots available, both of them filled up with our streamers. So I believe that there is more than one streamer today because there are other streams. I can't remember if they're different languages or not, but regardless, we have got potentially a Sejuani pickup, which would make sense if it's a Russian team. I mean, you know, there is a skin for it and all that.
That would be awesome if they actually ran the skin purely because of that fact. But Socialmedia in the jungle, very interesting indeed. Not something we've seen for a very long time. She doesn't really fit the common junglers at the moment, Spuddington. She offers a lot of utility, huge engage potential, a little bit of damage, but not as much as other junglers at the moment. You know, the likes of Shyvana, Lisa, and Jarvan. But lots of those have been banned out, so maybe that's their next choice. It's like, well, 4 junglers have been banned out. My next choice, my next tier list choice is Sejuani. Interesting.
Yeah, the other thing about Sejuani is that she tends to work very well with big AoE compositions. If you were, for instance, to pick out an Orianna, who I believe is still open and who I believe they did run last game, that setup with the, you know, is it the no, that's Lissandra is Frozen 2, which very accurately describes Sejuani's ultimate, but I actually cannot remember the name of Sejuani's ultimate. The R button on the boar lady. If you press that, and then you have the Orianna ultimate shockwave coming in on top of it, that is a really nasty wombo combo. But does look like Dignitas may smell that is coming in the wind, and they have got Zyra for the disengage.
Yeah, absolutely, and they honestly need it this early on into the Champion Select. They can't afford to not give themselves disengage. Last time they really didn't have an out, but at the same time they were so good defensively, it made it very difficult for TheRed even to aggress onto them at any stage in the game. This time though, TheRed once again going for a heavy engage composition. Their mid game will be very solid. We'll see what they can do to flesh out the rest of their lineup, and indeed it does look like the Zyra. So Zyra is the disengage. It's exactly what Dignitas need to make their team composition a little more versatile as we get underway into the game.
Yeah, it's always like a kind of reverse style from last game where TheRed had the constant Shen pressure to mean that they could play very defensively with their actual team fighting and still do okay. This time, though, it looks like, to me, TheRed are going for a more aggressive style. They've got a really hard engage here with that Sejuani, and potentially looking at the Zac as well. So that is a really meaty kind of in and kill comp. That does mean that Kassadin will have the potential, assuming Dignitas get ahead, to kind of split them up, and as a result try and get picks on the rotations, avoid that AoE storm. But if the Red get ahead, that gets really scary really quickly, because if they can dive, they can blow up your whole team. And it looks like we might see Loaf the Bread Zerker, because I've actually been seeing quite a lot of him lately.
Yeah, he's looking to be very, very strong indeed. Like, we saw him a little bit in Korea, and the Korean teams are basically dubbing him as OP, much like they did with Vi. I don't really have an opinion on him yet, Wellington, because we haven't seen him in the European scene, and when you're trying to, like, transfer characters from meta to meta, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good in each meta.
I've come up against him in solo queue once or twice,
Okay.
and it's scary, I'll say that much, although in fairness I was playing Fiora. So...
Yeah, it would be.
Jungle, though. So, interesting. Okay. Presumably it is going to be Jungle Loaf here. I always refer to him as Loaf, by the way. It's just my personal joke. It's a terrible joke, but but he is Loaf, the bread circa. Okay, so that is going to be Jungle Olaf, and that is, as a result, going to be quite an aggressive jungler, I would assume.
Wait, so it definitely is Olaf Jungle? I'm still waiting for the picks on my
pretty sure,
screen.
because it's not going to be Renekton Jungle.
Right, okay.
Or Kassadin Jungle.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Renekton Jungle a little bit from Shuk, but I'm not going to call it the most viable thing in the world that we've ever seen. But Olaf Jungle, I mean, what we've seen from Olaf in Korea is generally Olaf top lane. And he is, like, his laning phase is good against certain matchups and does become very scary if he starts itemizing. It's just a matter of how strong is he from levels, how strong is he from itemization, and how much is that going to cripple him. And what is his trading potential against junglers, for instance? We just don't know. But they banned out so many aggressive junglers, so many of the good duelists like Elise and Shyvana. He can really, like, they can afford to pick the Olaf, much in the same way that TCM couldn't afford to pick Volibear, like, against a Vi matchup.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see how it works out. If I had to guess, I'd say he's a pretty strong jungle duelist. Certainly is strong in that one-on-one scenario. But regardless, guys, while the delay timer ticks down, we will be just going into a quick commercial break. So while that plays on your screens, we will be dawdling around and not really doing very much of value. But regardless, we're going into a break, so we'll see you after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are just about to get underway. In fact, we are already sort of underway. Dignitas UK versus TheRed in the Weplay Invitational Tournament. I am Spuddington, joined again by Pulse, and we have a slight conundrum. We don't know who's mid and who's top.
Indeed, we have TheRed bringing the funk and also the level 1 team fight as we have the face check from Swazrani taking huge amounts of damage. In turn, Zac is leading the charge, still has that Cell Division passive, and both these teams will kind of back on up, but Nixar gets caught and clipped by the undertow, flashes over the wall, and the barrier has been popped. Ward over the wall for the vision, and Olaf does not quite connect the last undertow, and everyone will be recalling, but both of the summons down on Nixar.
Once again, though, a nice read by Dignitas. They seem to have scouted the Red, and they seem to know what level 1 plays they are likely to go for. So it seems like this time they did get a little bit of a better of them on the grounds of Summoner Spells, and DX Alchemist is having birds thrown at his face. As it happens, it looks like Demonko is hanging around the mid lane. I'm pretty sure he's not mid, though. He is running wards and biscuits and pots.
Yeah, and Fiddlesticks actually just stopped Alchemist from recalling for so long, he was forced to burn through a cross-line fast stack, which will actually hurt Alchemist a lot more than it will hurt Fiddlesticks, so incredibly well played by Demonko, and now the draw will go for a very sort of conventional start. Dignitas were not able to get the read and the early scout to be able to just go for that instant invade, which he might have done with Olaf. Like, Olaf versus Swazrani is very, very favourable matchup for Olaf, but they're unable to do that, so they'll probably just go for the conventional level 3 start.
Alright, so it actually looks at the moment like we're going to be seeing Lucian Fiddlesticks in this bottom lane up against Kassadin in that area, and the Dignitas bot lane rotating around to the mid. So, pushing fight going down right now, and Quinn in the top lane versus Renekton, which is going to be probably a favourable matchup for Quinn at least until level 6, I would guess.
Yeah, it's not one of your conventional matchups, Puddington. Not something you see every day. This is a very interesting...
Have you ever been in solo?
The classic...
all the time.
The classic bronze 5 lane matchups. But they will pay, yep, indeed, doing very well against Nitrix. But however, Yarrow gets caught. Huge amounts of damage from Nixar and Demonko as they pin him down. Teleport has been forced up by Alchemist just to really force them back because of the unfavourable initial trade. Impaler comes into the top lane. Quinn knocks him back with Volt. And man, I need to get used to some of those spell names, because I just don't see enough of Quinn in competitive play.
Yeah, it's been something I've actually heard about for a long, long time, a laning Quinn in the top lane. DX Alchemist in trouble in the mid lane. I think he's going to get out of that though, so no worries. But laning Quinn in the top lane because of the predominant type of character being a melee bruiser, and because Vault and Blinding Assault are so good against that type of character.
Yeah, indeed, her laning phase will be very strong, and when the transition into mid-game as well will be incredibly good from TheRed. They have 2 AD carries who operate very well in the mid-game, and 2 AD carries who really like to itemize Triforce as well. So they'll have huge amounts of burst, massive amounts of utility and mobility. So it's going to be very difficult for Dignitas to counter that, and it might have been a direct result of them picking the Kassadin, because now that they have those 2 AD carries, they can kind of go blow for blow in that kind of roaming phase.
Yeah, the other thing they've done really, really nicely here is they've picked themselves a lot of CC. Impaler actually going aggressive in mid.
Yeah, indeed, Nitrix comes in from the top side looking to collapse, but also gets feared up as Johnny takes another undertow to the face alongside Nixar. And he will take this opportunity to aggress into the jungle, place down a couple wards, and go ahead, Swellington finish off the point.
So, yeah. The nice thing about what TheRed have done with their picks here is they've managed to itemize themselves for double AD carries without really wanting for CC. Impaler in the top lane is probably going to be able to get himself out of here. He's being chased down, and they will pay. He's thinking about face checking, and Impaler is thinking about fighting him, but having picked the Fiddlesticks, the Zac, and the Sejuani, that gives them so much crap.
Oh, the Ignite comes down. Will Impaler get out of here? Auto attacks come out for the lifesteal. Doesn't quite come to fruition. And Nitrix looks for the kill into return. Auto attacks come out. And the blind as well is going to take another couple auto attacks, but cutting the vision. And then eventually with the slice and dice, will pick up the kill onto Quinn.
Yeah, nicely done overall. And a lot of crowd control and CC on the other abilities, on the other characters that TheRed have picked.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the mid lane, well, DX Alchemist finding it very difficult to do anything at all, as he can't really get in range because Fiddlesticks will instantly fear, can't get the farm, and has to defend the turret at the same time.
Yeah, and comparatively right now, it seems like the Red are getting the better of the laning phase on the whole. Dignitas, Samwise, is actually pushing down this bottom tower quite aggressively, and Zac is having a lot of trouble holding that off. But I feel like there's more farm going in the favor of the Red at the moment, so it's just a little bit of an issue for them. But the gold total is actually still in the favor of Dig, so maybe I'm talking out of my friendly friend called Sam.
You kind of walked yourself into a corner there with that sentence, Puddington. But
we backed into a corner there.
Indeed. But when we take this to mid game, like, we have the Red with an incredibly good team in mid game, but as soon as we get to late game, Dignitas massively outscaled them. Yes, they have 2 AD carries, but they're AD carries who don't fare as well compared to Caitlyn. You've got the late game scaling of Olaf and also Alchemist, and they have disengage, so they kind of have to win in mid game, and therefore they have to have a good early game to kind of supplement that.
Yeah, and that's really the reason I think that... Oh, actually, Zac has just been split up, and it looks like Sejuani's staying in.
Yeah, Arctic Assault comes out, doing surprising amounts of damage, but they're still trying to choke down Zac in time. He gets on out and walks away from the tower, so Sejuani has managed to protect a friend.
Yeah, and he is chuckling away to himself there in the corner. But like I was saying, the reason for the Olaf pick actually fights.
Yeah, they've gone for the engage. In fact, the barrier has cleanse. Sorry, has been popped. Yarrow picks that one up. Cell division passive already being used beforehand, and the kill picked up for the bot lane of Dignitas.
Several smart picks by Dignitas here in the cleanse on Caitlyn means she's much less likely to get locked down by Sejuani and murdered. DX Alchemist gets locked down and murdered in the mid lane. Impaler also in trouble there. And the Olaf pick to dive through Fiddlesticks, to dive through Sejuani, and really punish the double AD carry composition when it comes to team fights in this later mid-game period.
Yeah, so they really have to start picking up the pace, but honestly, where they will start shining is the sheer amounts of mobility and potential invades. And right now, it's a very interesting composition, Spunnington, and it's a composition we don't see run very often, and it was probably picked reactively to the pickup of Kassadin to kind of make sure that even if Kassadin does moderately well in the mid game, they'll still be able to shut him down and do his job better as a team. It's just very, very risky.
Yeah, it's a very well thought out composition though. They really put like a lot of contingencies in it essentially, so it does seem like it could work for them, but again, there is a reason that the standard comps are standard, because they tend to work better on the whole. But if you can catch someone off guard, it can work out really, really well for you. And DX Alchemist is actually not having a fun game right now. He still hasn't even hit 6.
Yeah, indeed. So their composition is doing incredibly well. They've got the goals in the right places, and they've shut down the right people, at least in the early laning phase. The Nexus was finding it very difficult even to get close to Quinn, so we could see a very early objective being picked up by the Red. And indeed, Matrix just can't even get close.
And that's the interesting thing here, because there's quite a heavy commitment. The Alchemist has Riftwalk, but there is 2 people who are thinking about going for him there, so he lives to fight another day, but Lucian may not.
Yep, Nixel pops a Red in the bot lane. Oh, the flash comes in from Demonco. Right in the right place at the right time, but the flash has been burnt top lane, however, so Sejuani walking up here. Impaler and Nitrix can probably win this trade no matter how it goes, as Nitrix is being incredibly aggressive, trying to bait this one out in the bot lane. Demonco comes in with the Crow Storm. Samwise drops low, picks up the kill, and Zara walks on out. Nixel's still very low himself, but he's good to go.
So in the end, the top lane was merely a feint, a sleight of hand, as it happens. And Zyra actually flashed over the wall both to get away from Fiddlesticks and to try and kill Lucian, but was not able to get it. He's going to have to run from Zac now, but should be okay in the long run. DX Alchemist has finally hit his level 6, and he has got teleport, so I kind of wonder if this fight in top lane could emerge into that.
Yeah, indeed. Nitrix comes in with the auto attacks, takes him down with Ruthless Predator. Flash comes in from Sejuani, and they will pay backs enough and turns the corner. In fact, we will not have the teleport just yet from Kassadin. It wasn't quite the full-on engagement that he really wanted.
Yeah, it's always very, very painful as an already behind Kassadin to teleport for a fight and then not really gain all that much from it. So opting to play it a little bit safer, but he will be losing his tower very soon in top lane though.
Dignitas going for the dive, and he has jumped into tag team, jumps out of it immediately, maybe not the right decision here, auto attacks Impaler, who just takes him down with a nice reckless swing.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. This is one of the reasons Quintop is generally only seen in solo queue. He can shut down people really hard one-on-one. Impaler, I think, is probably in trouble here, but I'm just going to carry on talking about Quinn because there's not a lot going on. So, the thing about Quinn top lane is that she actually does tend to suffer from a bad case of being very easily ganked. Yeah, Loaf, no way out from that.
Yeah, the very slow demise of Olaf in the top lane. But yeah, Quinn is kind of suffering from those problems, but at the same time, it's not going to affect their team composition all that much, because they're still relying on getting into the mid game. But has Alchemist left himself too low? Nope, Riftwalk comes out, and, well, Zac slowly tries to kill him, jumps in once again with the Elastic Slingshot, but once again, Riftwalk.
Nope. Is he committed too far? Nope, I'm Kassadin. I can't.
Indeed.
So, I mean, in fairness though, the fact that Fiddlesticks is in this game may make Kassadin's life a little bit more difficult, because of the fact that if he jumps in, it's not always going to be possible for him to jump out. The fear will happen quicker than the silence from Kassadin, and that is really, really scary. It means a commitment, if you don't know where Fiddlesticks is much, much more risky.
I feel like if the Red want to utilize their composition, they need to accelerate the game. And it's interesting because they haven't made any aggressive play really onto like Dragon. They haven't grouped up for like a 3-man push onto a tower. So they're not accelerating the game and utilizing their compositions. They're just trying to outlane them. And yes, it's kind of working out. They've got 1 kill over Dignitas, but they're being outfarmed. Impaler, He's kind of stuck in the not best of places. However, popping the Ragnarok, Alchemist coming in from the side as well. Ace the Hole comes out. They should surely pick up this kill onto Fiddlesticks. Indeed, they will. The Cutting in return picked up the kill onto Kassadin. As we have Fires jumping over the wall, at least charging the Elastic Slingshot. Doesn't connect onto either Impaler or Yarrow. And now is the chance for potentially them to pick up the Dragon as well. In fact, they just kind of dissipate.
Yeah, it would be a little bit risky for them to do that. It does look to me like they're just going to be backing off, returning to laning. I would say that was the reason Olaf has been picked here by Dignitas. You saw him run straight through the Sejuani ult and destroy his opponent. That is just what he does, and that's why Dignitas took him. And it looks like Dignitas have finally taken the first tower of the game.
Yeah, indeed, and that really benefits Dignitas, not because they just took a tower, but because it's basically reducing the time in which the Red can utilize their composition. It's like they need to be ahead to make sure that they can roam and rotate between lanes and potentially get these picks. But with Kassadin doing rather well, it's making it harder and harder for them to do anything with what they're running.
Indeed it is, but it looks like right now the Red is grouping up for this Dragon area. They know that they potentially have this if they want it, because Renekton's still committed at top. Looks to me like Dignitas are making an informed decision to swap here. They will probably be able to take that top tower from Renekton's damage. But that was already getting low, so the Red may then look to rotate and take another tower in return for the top tower. As it happens though, Quinn popping ultimate and actually rushing up there.
Yeah, tag team has been popped, and Nitro's on about 60% HP, does however possess the Dominus. We'll see who comes out ahead, and Quinn is still very squishy indeed. Has picked up the Brutalizer, auto attacks coming down. Nitro's doesn't really want to fight this though, hasn't hit the second level of his Dominus, and Quinn is slowly grinding him down. Dominus finally comes up for the extra HP and gets out of dodge.
Yeah, it makes sense there. Quinn getting across the ground as quickly as possible. Nitrix had used his stun to reset his auto attack and take the tower a little bit quicker, so that was why he really didn't want to fight, I think, there, even though he could potentially have won it, but he'd then have to have contended with the whole vault away thing, which is quite a tricksy tool in the box of Quinn up there. So looks like, well, actually looks like Impaler is going to be up top now for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take stock and take a look at some of the items at the moment. So Olaf has gone for a fairly typical build. In fact, what Olaf used to go for in Season 2. Shirelius comes out for not only the movement speed active, but also the cooldown reduction, and the entire item is just perfect for Olaf. It does mean it will be taking away from maybe more tanky items such as the jungle item of the Spirit of the Blue Golem, or indeed other items that he'll start itemizing later, such as like Randuin's or even Spirit Visage. But against this team, they are heavily stacked into the AD, so most likely either Randuin's or perhaps even Frozen Heart from Olaf. But the biggest problem for the Red right now is lots of their kills are stacked on Fiddlesticks.
Indeed, and he is, I mean, he's a relevant threat in that he has CC, and obviously Crowstorm does a fair bit of damage, but he doesn't really have enough gold to be able to start building more damage, or Zhonya's, so that could be difficult. But the Alchemist in middle, Rick walks out.
Turns out he's Kassadin, but Socialmedia looking to land the perfect ultimate. However, body block comes in for Olaf.
Ganking situation. Who would you rather spend your CC on? Kassadin or Olaf?
On neither, and that's exactly what Socialmedia did.
Genius. Next level plays right there. I would actually just like to bring a note to Season 2 build Olaf here. Yero, though, in trouble.
Yep, slowly being ground down, and the Let's Bounce comes in from Zac as well. No real follow-up, but the bird comes out and doesn't quite pick up. Yero ticks down from Ignite, however, Zemonko backing on off. 3-1 and doing pretty well for himself. Culling comes through and does minimal damage to Samwise.
Minimal damage? I mean, maximum damage from the actual culling. Unfortunately, it is the culling, so do all that much damage until quite late in the game, but they will pay in trouble up atop.
Yep. Kicks him back with the Volt, and just birds on out, but that's a long cooldown to spend to try and get away from Renekton.
Yeah, looks like we're starting to hit the point where Renekton, with that double gap closer, is just able to jump on Quinn, and Quinn doesn't really have the answer. However, this could be risky. They're going for it.
Yep, but as the aforementioned Slice will just get him out.
Yeah, just going for it, are we? Oh, best we'd better just turn around and go back home. But actually, Zac in the mid lane on Samwise.
Yeah, slows him down, and Cleanse comes out and walks on out. This seems to be the reoccurring theme with each one of these engagements. Everyone can disengage so easily, no one really dies. You have a bit of action, Nitrix aggressors on today will pay, but soon enough he'll Volt, and then he'll auto-attack, and he'll walk on out. And
Alchemist, though.
The Alchemist in the bottom lane is slowly being taken down, ground down in fact. One more auto attack will do it. Oh, the preemptive flash over the wall and the Rift Book. He gets out. Wow, the escape route's coming from Alchemist, and he's out.
That was really quick play by Alchemist, and he was dead in my eyes. So very, very dead. He could have been a corpse. But as it happens, he gets out alive, and once again, it seems like it's almost like last game, both teams work much better on the defensive. But this time, both teams don't really work much better at killing your opponents on the defensive. They just can't be caught. So they both just run for it whenever they feel like it. And the aggression is getting completely stymied as a result of that, rather than because both teams are like, actually, I don't really want to engage you, which was last game. However, Zac saying laggy, question mark? We do have a pause timer.
Yeah, I seriously hope that is not the servers, because that would cause lots of issues. But apparently Dignitas have no problem, so we'll see if FireRes can go ahead and resolve those issues. But I agree completely. Last time they were operating very well as a defensive lineup, as a team, and they would just kill them if you aggressed onto them. But this time, both teams can disengage, but not entirely as a team. We're kind of in these micro fights that we have, so that nothing will really happen until people start grouping up. And I'm still surprised that we haven't seen the Red accelerate the game and group up themselves, because in my eyes, their team composition excels in their mobility.
Yeah, they seem to be finding it very difficult to, because several times they've nearly gotten picks which they then could have taken other objectives from, but they just haven't been able to make it work. And I do have to compliment Dig on good picking as a result, because that is partly due to the fact they've got Cleanse on Caitlyn, the fact they've got, Olaf in their game and the Zyra disengage. So, a little bit hard to tell who's going to come out on top if this goes super long at the moment, because Kassadin's not doing too well. But I certainly think that, considering it's quite a novel comp from the Red, Dignitas have reacted well. Oh, and I wanted to talk about Olaf build, because look at that pulse. What does that tell you about that build?
He likes doing damage, and he also likes running at people.
Congratulations! But the other thing that tells me is that he isn't that worried about being very, very tanky, because yes, Doran's Blades give you health, yes, Shirelia's Reverie gives you health, but they're not super health-orientated items. I remember one of your concerns when you saw the Olaf jungle, we were talking about it in the break between the Champion Select and the game, was that he wouldn't be doing enough damage. Thus far, it looks like he's kind of relying on his base stats and just a little bit of supplementary health rather than anything else.
Yeah, we just had the pause and unpause, but indeed, like, I agree. He's kind of made up for that by buying Duran's items, which work for like the early game and kind of the mid game, but it's not like a long-term option. He can't keep stacking Duran's Blades and be like, "This is my build." Like, it doesn't work like that.
6 Doran's Blade, the most efficient.
It would be very efficient.
I think the players are now trolling us in Oh no, Yero just disconnected. Okay. By the way, apparently the second disconnect and reconnect there. Oh sorry, Renek in ignore list didn't see go. So there may be some solo queue minor, personality conflicts that could have arisen quite often in solo queue. Very common thing to have happen, actually, at every level.
Personality conflicts.
That's what we called it.
Absolutely, but until we have Yero reconnecting to the game, any other builds really kind of popping out at you here, Splittington? I'm kind of looking at the AD carry builds from the Red. They've gone for mid-game orientated builds, and this is kind of what we expected for them. But they've not been utilising it. Like, Quinn's gone for the Brutalizer, mid-game. Also gone for the Buzzword's Cutlass, most likely going to go to the Blade of the Rune King. Yes, mid-game to late-game item, but at the same time you've got the Fate picked up by Lucian, which implies he's going to go for Triforce, something he would do anyway, but they're not gearing up for the late game. So it still looks like they want to go for a mid-game fight, but the moves and the team movements suggest otherwise.
Yeah, it is a little bit difficult to say what their objective is at this point. Maybe they plan to just do a lot of split pushing and rely on Quinn's ability to fight Renekton, but I don't think that's necessarily a long-term plan. Renekton feels to me like he's just going to get stronger and stronger as time goes by in that one-on-one. There's only so much you can do with just, a Brutalizer and maybe a Last Whisper, I guess, which would help. But it feels to me like the Red have sort of lost that momentum, I guess you could say. But again, this is League. All they need is one pick and they could suddenly turn it around really quickly.
Yeah, and you're incredibly good at running the pick game, especially with Fiddlesticks, especially as highly mobile AD carries. And also Sojani and Zac, they also complement that type of playstyle. But at the moment, not very much is happening. If anything is going to happen, it's going to be down to these lanes killing each other. That's fairly unlikely, since what we've already discussed before, they can disengage very easily. So at the moment, this is not very much happening.
Indeed, but if this goes on for long enough, Caitlyn will become a huge threat just on the ground. She's much safer AD carry than either Lucian or Quinn could ever hope to be. And also, I mean, her base attack speed is pretty good, so she'll get really scary late game, and she won't be much answer to her. DX Alchemist actually going aggressive here.
Yeah, it gets terrified in response. And Demonko backs on off, takes a Null Sphere to the face. Impaler follows through with the Undertow, picks up the kill immediately. Ragnarok comes through, and now the re-engage from the Majak and gets picked up in return. Howard tag team, and Quinn is rapidly en route. Very fast Quinn coming through, and Stranglethorns comes up, area denial, and they will just back on off.
Yeah, they will pay. Doesn't seem to have completely given up yet. Doesn't want to step in the trap, though. That would get ugly quickly. And actually now just going to head on back up the top lane while Dignitas take away this dragon. Dignitas now definitely starting to get an edge in this game, though. 4,000 gold, well, I can't count. 3,000 gold is fairly significant, still not a massive advantage for them, but it feels like they've slowed down this fast pushing that the Red needs, and simply by virtue of that, the simple fact that they can assassinate really well is going to take advantage of the double AD comp, regardless of how much CC they've managed to work into the rest of their team.
Yeah, indeed. Like, the Reds were very reliant on doing well early, transitioning into the mid-game, and then roaming and getting picks. As it is, Caston's doing pretty well. They're continuously getting picks before objectives, and then they just outplay them with these big-picture team movements. And the Red aren't responding well to it. And then we just saw the Drake picked up. There's no objective for the Red to fight over. And as a result, they just have to kind of go back to the lanes, farm it out. And over time, we've already mentioned, Dignitas will edge ahead.
Indeed, indeed. So we have got another pause coming in, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to quote Impele here, who is, I think, maybe quoting Olaf himself, saying, pretty
accurate.
Just how it is. Yeah, I mean that's what he says, isn't it? Like when he's ulting.
Indeed.
Oh well. Regardless, though. Video games. Okay, so late. Okay, right. Ladies and gentlemen, we here have kind of run out of things to say because honestly, there's not a lot going on. Right.
Could also answer questions from chat. I mean, that's also a thing. Oh, no, the game's restarting again.
The problem is they don't pause for long enough. We can't go.
Indeed.
We're going to answer chat games from chat because by the time it appears in chat, it'll have gone. Actually, Nitrix going aggressive in top, but then giving up. Teleport though.
Teleport coming in for Alchemist, jumps in with Riftwalk, Northsphere comes out, knockback from Volt, but I don't see any way he's going to get out of here unless Johnny comes in from the side, who Glacial Prison, auto attacks come in, response, Nitrix jumps in with the slice and dice, jumps onto They Will Pay, nukes him down in an instant, but Johnny is incredibly tanky right now, but with Zara heading up, there's no chance he can turn this one around, but Demonko gets picked up in response from Impaler.
The Loaf. The Loaf has found his target, and Nitrix is still chasing aggressively. Yarrow is up there as well, but I don't think they can really make anything happen, and Lucian did actually just take a tower, so that is actually probably overall going to be a small advantage unless Nitrix and Yarrow can equalize in this top lane, which they just dare not because they do not know where Zac is, and they do know that Lucian is most likely coming towards them as well. So kind of, again, small picks, and they're not finding the opportunities to take objectives off their picks. Neither team is, in fact. And that's, again, a question of who's going to have the better late game, and I still have to give it to Dig, even though if we get to completely, like, full build, maybe the double AD carry will start to become stronger again. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's like a literally 60-minute scenario when we hit both of the AD carries hitting full build. They might have to change the itemization as well because at the moment they're still gearing up for mid-game. Brutalizer as in on the Quinn as well. But honestly, like the fact that Olaf has started to pick up kills, that's become one of the bigger issues. And the AD carries won't be able to trunk through that, and he's still doing enough damage at this stage to become a relevant threat. And that, as you said, was my concern. Will he have enough damage? Yes, he'll be tanky, but his base damages aren't enough to really do enough and have that big enough presence, where if you compare him to like Shyvana, who gets naturally tanky and does natural damage. But it's worked out because he's 4-2-2. In fact, his play this game has just been to like roam the jungles and try and kill the Fiddlesticks, because he was honestly a priority target. Picking up those 3 kills would increase the gold he was getting from him, so his play was just to try and kill Fiddle.
Yeah, I think the other thing he's done that's quite nice this game, kind of reminiscent of Meteos in NA, is that he's been taking a lot of lane farm. If he catches if he just finds a lane, he will just farm if there's not a lot else to be doing. He won't prioritize his lane over himself. Samwise could potentially be in trouble, but is just turning around, putting down some damage, and looks like we may resume our passive play.
Indeed, however, Rasmussen comes in, and the Stranglethorns as well, surely gonna get the knockup. Impaler comes in, now into the Cell Division passive, and they've forced the red back, so it's just a matter of cleaning up shop. But also Fiddlesticks over the wall, Nitrix taking a lot of damage from the collie, Impaler goes huge with Ragnarok, but forced to back off very quickly in these kind of protracted engagement. The AD carries will pay off in dividend. However, Alchemist, lots of damage in return. Now it's clean-up time for these AD carries. So Johnny comes in, very low HP, low mana. Flash comes in, and the Volt auto-attacks will pick up the kill. Ace the hole, who will tank it? It will be Quinn. And then the Red, in these scenarios in which everyone is flashing up red, in fact do very well.
I had to say, I could have had carrying on passive play, but no, they have to make me wrong. So, very nice team fight though there by the Red. Getting, I think, the Sejuani ult onto 4 people. Olaf diving in, but into 2 AD carries who both targeted all their DPS on him. Renekton not in the same area, so they couldn't synchronize that dive. Really, really good stuff all around for them. Not, however, able to take big objectives. They got 1 tower off it, so they're starting to claw back that small advantage that Dignitas have, which is now really, honestly, shrinking to the point of insignificance at this stage of the game. I've got to say, Dignitas, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe double AD carry won't be that bad later on in the game.
We'll see. I mean, naturally, when you look at these setups, you think 2 AD carries, great, their late game is amazing. But we've already kind of mentioned their problems. And I think the Red can't rely on having those situations all the way through the game. They can't say always that they're going to be able to kite Dignitas effectively. It just worked out very well because Impaler didn't synchronize his assault with Nitrix or Alchemist, so they were going in one by one, forced to back off, and then the AD carries could clean up. They're very good at doing that because of high mobility, especially Quinn. But they can't rely on that situation happening every time. They can't rely on being able to clean up, especially when you have such a hard engage composition from Dignitas. So unless they misplay every single fight, I still don't see it.
True, maybe, but I've got to say, actually, I think this game is actually highlighting the differences between Cook My Sock and DX Alchemist. You remember way back when Cook My Sock would play on Kassadin?
Yeah.
I feel like in this game environment, he would have found more kills. He was always a more aggressive, risky player. DX Alchemist is very, very good, don't get me wrong, but he is a more defensive player, and when you're behind, you can afford to take those big risks because it's not actually that big of a loss if you go down, and you might be able to set something up for your team as a result. So maybe that's just my 2 cents, and maybe I'm completely off, but I'm not Carl off, so that's a shame.
Yeah, indeed. Like, I agree. DX Alchemist will never make the wrong decision. You'll see that throughout his games. He always makes the right decision, but will never, like, make a play. And that's kind of the thing with plays in general. You have to take a risk to make it amazing. And that's something that Cook My Sock did all the time. Like, you remember one of the first Challenger series we had with Cook My Sock, and we were like, wow, we can just make a highlight reel from just following Cook My Sock around all game. And while Alchemist can make amazing plays, he's just a more consistent player. And in these types of circumstances, it would favor that type of playstyle, I agree.
Yeah, because when you have these games which are very much focused around like roaming around, split pushing and all the rest of it, the ability to make a play, you just get more opportunities to do that kind of stuff. Regardless though, obviously the best of both worlds is when you get someone who is capable of making plays and also never makes a mistake, also known as a robot, also known as Alex-ish. So we do have Fireys thinking about going in, but it just feels like both teams are a little bit antsy about actually going for it right now. We might see Kassadin do some split pushing with teleport soon.
Yeah, indeed. That's something that Dignitas will also have in their arsenal as we approach the kind of latter parts of the game. But once again, the Red, on a defensive level, they're doing very well. They have 2 AD carries, they've got the range wave clear. They've also got Zac, who is surprisingly good at wave clear, and also Swajani. So, Dignitas 5 versus 5 can't make a siege happen. Yes, they have Caitlyn, who is probably the best sieging champion along with all her other strengths. But again, they just can't do anything, so we're back to this farming frenzy, Spuddington, and who does it benefit in the long run? Still going to favour Dignitas at this stage.
Yeah, it's a really... There is one thing that will be really important in late game about the double AD, though. They will have the potential to clear Baron really, really fast. They can, like, just focus both the AD carries DPS on it, and it will go down like a shot. Olaf also actually a pretty quick clear, and Caitlyn, once she's gotten that damage up, will also do that. But gotta give it to the double ADs on that front at least. So gonna be a fairly long game at this current rate because neither side can afford to go anywhere near a tower just because of the long range engages. Like Dignitas goes up, yeah, maybe you want to use Caitlyn's sieging potential, but their ability to actually take a tower if they get jumped on by Zac or Fiddlesticks is really gonna get hard.
Yeah, indeed, and Dignitas have kind of given up on the slow game and have engaged onto the Baron. Will be taking a bit of damage and won't be taking extra damage because, well, they're not running AP carries, they're running AD carries, so it won't hurt them as much, and it means that Dignitas can make these kind of plays onto Baron. At the same time, the Red come around the corner and find them, and Taylor looks for the engage as the Ultimate Assault comes in as well. The AD carry is still on the back lines, looking for Kassadin to try and assassinate these guys, but Demonko is doing his best to keep them away. Finally, the ultimate comes in the form of Crowstorm. Nitrix still on the front lines, but he just can't even get close. This is a very weird fight, Spuddington. Impaler is getting chunked down by the culling. One more auto attack will do it. In fact, Lightslinger picks that one up, and Samwise backs it off just behind the turret, and Zac into his Cell Division passive underneath the turret. Quinn trying her best to pick up a kill as they try and clear up these bloblets. The Valor will not quite pick up the kill, and Ace comes across and kills Quinn in return, and Zac manages to get out alive. Meanwhile, double kill comes in for Nixar.
Bizarre decision making there by Dignitas, seeking out a fight when they had already used several cooldowns, including Dominus. Several of their champions were damaged, and they were diving in on the red. I have no clue what the logic was behind that, because it did not work out for them. And again, if you're against a team that works really well on the defensive, don't put them on the defensive. It doesn't work out that well for you. At least don't put them on the defensive on equal terms. So that definitely now has put the red back in the lead, and for a team that I didn't even know existed until today, that's pretty good.
Yeah, indeed. It seems like Dignitas really fall down to kind of oddball compositions. We saw it from Avalanche, and now we're seeing it from the Red, who are running double AD carry, mid-game focused AD carries. They're just not doing well against it. They don't adapt all that well. I would say in that last engagement, I agree, they engaged when they were behind in terms of their HP bars, and once again, they didn't chain their assault correctly with the people who they wanted to dive in with. Renekton came in, walked in, and then realized he couldn't get anywhere close because Zac was slowing him, walked backwards, then Alchemist went in, and then backed off. And all the while, the AD carriers were literally just static. They were just standing still. It was like, this is great. We don't even need to micro because they're walking towards us and he can't reach us.
It's like turret defense or something.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Like that. Yeah, questionable decisions. The inhibitor is still open. That's actually now going to mean that the thing that I feel Dignitas maybe could have abused a little bit earlier on, that being Kassadin's split push potential with that teleport, has now been dramatically reduced, because whenever he starts doing that now, the entire team of the Red can just barrel down mid lane. So really, really awkward stuff. And I could have sworn I just saw Clairvoyance go off. That was weird. No, that was heightened senses. I was like, there's suddenly this big circle of vision in the middle of the jungle. What's going on?
Around Quinn. Interesting. But at the same time, the Red are still in a weird position though, because they've run this type of composition which is so good on the defensive, they really still can't be aggressive. But Yarrow, again, being the kind of downfall of Dignitas. He's not actually died yet though, and this could be the collapse that Dignitas really need. Alchemist taking huge amounts of damage from the Light Slinger, and they will pay, comes in from the side, mops up Alchemist, not a kill onto Caitlyn, and Nitrix caught between a rock and a hard place. He backed on off, and Impaler goes huge, picked up one onto Demonko, but next throw over the wall means he can't go any further, and now they look for the siege onto the middle inhibitor. Long range slingshot onto Nitrix, forces the ultimate, double Randuin's comes in, picks up another kill. The slow burn of the Red comes through.
And they're just horribly divided again. Dignitas, they're going to be suffering badly, and actually the Red could potentially go for the win off this Impaler, trying to mount a last man defense, but there's just no way. And that means all the men are down. Yarrow will respawn, but I don't believe he can stop that. Impaler certainly doesn't think so. We've got GG well players coming in, and the Red take the series that I predicted would go 2-0 in the favor of Team Dignitas. 2-0.
Indeed, and 280 carries means you can seize the Nexus very, very quickly. This was one of the strangest games I've ever casted, Spuddington, but that will be the Red taking us 2-0 against Dignitas UK.
Yeah, we get the double explosion on the Nexus as well. So really, really interesting gameplay, as you say. And I have to say, I feel like Team Dignitas did not play as well as they might have done there. Feels like their team fighting was a little bit messy, and they didn't react necessarily appropriately to the plays by the Red. But, like, all respect to them, the Red, really, really solid team coming out of the Russian region with almost no forward to me. So, regardless though, I believe we will have the next best of 3 coming up between MYM and Team Caronte, who I also haven't heard of, which now means I think they're amazing.
They'll probably go 2-0.
But they should be coming up fairly soon. Yeah, I predicted they would lose 2-0 as well. So we will have that game best of 3 coming up fairly shortly. I don't know exactly when it's scheduled to start. Shouldn't be long though, I believe.